Well, we finally have another episode of the Boardman Black and Gold podcast with Zane and David, and it's a very highly anticipated episode because the NFL draft is this week, and the Steelers have a lot to do. I think there's still some question marks even between the two of us coming into this, and maybe the first thing to kind of get out of the way is I don't think really either of us know what's going to happen or even what they should be doing because this offseason has been so strange. I feel like even in the other episodes that we talked about this offseason with some stuff on the offense, they kind of addressed it, but in the same time, they kind of didn't. So now we have to really rely on this draft, and we're a little bit in between on what we're supposed to be doing here. David, let's walk through our needs first because I think that's an important place to start. So what are your biggest needs for the Steelers in this draft?
So I thought about that a decent amount, and the thing that I think to talk about what you just said that makes me contemplate what our needs are is like, what is our goal? Because I have a goal. I have a personal plan. Like I think that my fan I don't know what the word is. Like me being a fan of the Steelers, I felt like I was directionless. I was like, what am I doing? But then looking at the draft, looking at like the top 50 guys and some other names, I was like, all right, well, we could do something like this. I'd say honestly, uh so we still need to attack the O line. I know we really did last draft. We did a little before, and I'm just really not content with where we are with the O line. I feel like the amount of sacks given up was specifically when Russell Wilson was in, like it just seemed like he was getting a lot of pressure. Maybe that was him holding the ball also, but I would love to beef up the O line, specifically left tackle is where I would want to target, just because I don't think Dan Moore Jr. is up to snuff. And then do we? It was I can't remember. I think he's still with us. I don't know, but after that. I would honestly say cornerback or running back because I would love to get a paired up guy with Jalen Moore and have a two-headed backfield like we have had the past 2 years, and then cornerback because I think that's might be our weakest position uh, on our team right now because besides Joey Porter Jr., who, draws flags all the time, we don't really, I feel like, have a strong I don't think we have a strong quarterback too. We have a decent amount of slot guys. So I'd say that those are the big positions. I have a couple D linemen here. I have one linebacker. But other than that, oh yeah, I guess this is kind of a shock. No QB. I'll say I was gonna hold on to it for a little bit. I don't want a quarterback this draft. I think there's too much. We were talking about it a little bit before. There's just some weird. It's just weird. The conversation's weird. I don't really know how to feel about it. I'd rather just not get one build up somewhere else. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you with the quarterback. I think Jackson Dart is kind of the one that we see a lot tendered towards the Steelers. At least I think that Pittsburgh media wants if there was an option to take at quarterback. But
Yeah.
I mean, I cannot justify Jalen Milrow. Now, here's one thing I do want to get your thoughts on, and I want to come back to one thing you said in a minute. But while we're on the topic of quarterbacks, what do you do if Shadur Sanders is there at 21? Because I've seen plenty of it, and it seems like there's a possibility that he would be there at 21. So what are you going to do if he's sitting there?
So this is what I'll say. If we take a quarterback, it must be Jackson Dart because one, like you said, Jalen Milrow, don't want to take a chance on him. If we had coaches who could develop, I would be more content with it because he's an athlete. Like if someone can get their hands on him and develop him, he could be great. Uh Shadur Sanders, I don't like. I really don't like at all. My dad told me a statistic that this season with Colorado, I'm pretty sure they said that he didn't complete a pass that was over 46 yards. So that to me is wild and very concerning when you have someone like Travis Hunter on your team and you can't complete a pass 50 yards down the field to him, the Heisman winner. So I don't know. And Shadura's got the whole Deion Sanders vibe. I don't like that vibe. I don't like that's great. We just added an ego at DK Metcalf, and we're gonna add another one, and especially an unearned ego. This guy has done nothing to get his ego besides who his father is. And so I don't think I would not like it at all. I'd be like, no, let's get no line, let's get a running back, let's get a cornerback.
Did you see that he's getting his jersey number retired for Colorado?
Oh, for Pete's sake. I mean, that's just what did he even do? They didn't even win a Mountain West or no, sorry, the Big 12 championship. Like,
They didn't even win a bowl game.
yeah, like I why I don't understand. I don't really know. You should I mean, they're retiring Travis Hunters, right?
Yeah, yeah. Both
But
of them.
that one's like, okay, he won the Heisman, you whatever, you can do that. But Shadur, it's like he's probably not even their best. He's probably not even like a top 3 Colorado quarterback.
Well, you know who's a better quarterback all time is Cordell Stewart.
No way. That's crazy.
Yeah, he did go to Colorado. I did not realize that until I saw something about it, but I'm like, that's funny. And you look at the stats side by side, and it's like Cordell Stewart was a better quarterback at Colorado. So there's that.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Yeah. So I'm not on. I know that we visited with him or talks to him. I am not on that train. I don't want to get on that train. I didn't think until like a week ago. I thought it was going to be either Jackson or Jalen, and then now Shadur comes into the mix, and I'm like, oh no! Like, I was already really upset about Jalen, and now we got 2 guys that I'd be pretty upset with. So, but what are your thoughts on Shadur?
Well, honestly, I'm right there with you, and I won't elaborate because pretty much everything you said is exactly my same thoughts. I think the ego is a big problem, and I think we,
Yeah.
like you said, we just have too many egos already. And honestly, and I had this thought today, and maybe this is completely delusional, but I don't mind Mason Rudolph, man. Like I don't mind it.
Either. I don't either. Like, all right. I mean, this is the smallest like span of info we could give, but that 2023 like 3 game span where he whooped Cincinnati, beat Seattle, and then beat Baltimore, like that was like some energy. He gave some energy into that team. Him and George Pickens went crazy. So add DK Metcalf after that. I'm honestly content. Like I'm content with Mason Rudolph being our starting quarterback going into the 2025 season because I don't think that any of these other guys would have a better performance than him, including okay, I won't say including Aaron Rodgers because he probably would put up better statistics, but still, he's on the way out.
And I don't think Aaron Rodgers is really into the equation. If we haven't done anything with him yet, and it seems like it's all on him, if we haven't done anything yet, then it's not going to happen. And the fact of the matter is, it doesn't even seem like he wants to even play football this season. So, you
Yeah,
know,
I heard from my I get a lot of my dad listens to a lot of these talk shows, so he kind of fills me in. He said that what you just said that he almost seems like he's leaning towards retirement. And so it's like, heck no, I don't want a guy who's thinking about retirement to come play this team. That's like Tom Brady's last season when they went 8-9. It's like, yeah, because he was half the way out the door. So it's like I don't want to get that in again. I rather get Mason Rudolph, who wants to be a good football player, and he's a team player. He doesn't have an ego, so
well,
and we need some.
even thinking about his profile, because now we've got George Pickens and DK Metcalf, on opposite sides of the field. What does Mason Rudolph do best? He sits in the pocket and he delivers the football.
Yeah,
He's not gonna roll out. He's not gonna, flee at the first sign of danger. He's gonna sit there, he's gonna embrace the pressure, and he's gonna deliver a strike. And, maybe that's what this team needs right now. And maybe that is what the team is looking for. I mean, did he have any weapons with Tennessee? No, he didn't. Give him some weapons here in Pittsburgh and maybe supplement a running back into the equation as well, which we'll talk about here in a second. I think I don't mind it. And I don't think it's worth spending draft capital on a quarterback this draft, especially with how weak the draft is. So I think both you and I, if we're both thinking the same way, we didn't even talk about liking Mason or not liking Mason, but the fact that we're both on the same page is there is pretty encouraging.
yeah. Oh, I agree, and I think that I agree with you. Like those guys are deep ball guys. That's what Mason does, and I think that it could be a good, pairing. And complete side note, it made me think because I remember we said this when he was starting 2 years ago, about how he was like, such a statue back there. I was at this game in 2019. I don't know if you remember, but when we played the Ravens and he was starting, he like rolled out to his left and made a nice pass actually, but Earl Thomas knocked him out like cold, and he had to like walk off the field. Um, and I want to like be like, okay, was that the last time he rolled out? Because like now, like he's such a statue, but like back then he was rolling out. So I just think it's interesting if that has anything to do with the rolling out of. I don't want that to happen again. But complete side note, back to the draft.
Interesting. I don't remember that very specifically, but I wonder if you could kind of go back and track if that's the case, which if that is the case, that is pretty interesting. But regardless, what we know of this Mason Rudolph now is he's going to sit there. If the pocket collapses around him, he's not going to be going anywhere and he'll deliver a strike, 20, 30 yards down the field. And honestly, with the way that our roster's looking, I would not mind that. Now, I do want to talk about, I mean, it kind of is a decent segue. One of your first things that you said was you want to bolster the offensive line. So, no Dan Moore, he's out of here. And we're going to be getting Broderick Jones back in his actual position at left tackle. So,
Okay.
does that change your mindset at all? And possibility, we're going to get Troy Fatanu back, who was our first round draft pick last season, which I think we both liked. I think we appreciated that. Is that going to change your mind on the offensive line? Because personally, I didn't have offensive line as a need this time.
So I think that I do actually, now that you said it, I do remember Broderick Jones getting moved back to left tackle. So that's interesting. I did forget about that. That probably takes the height out of it a little bit because we have Broderick Jones. We have who's our center that was Zach
Frazier.
Frazier. We have Zach Frazier, Troy Fatanu. Who's our right tackle?
So it's probably gonna be Mason McCormick, and then at left guard is gonna be Isaac Samalu.
Okay. So yeah, I still would love I saw a couple uh tackle like linemen, or even a guard. So maybe probably not the first round then. There that it's still I would love maybe some depth later, but then I wouldn't take a first round O lineman with where we're at.
Okay, that's good because personally, if we took an offensive lineman in the first round, especially now that we don't have a second round pick, I would be a little bit upset because I think that's continuing to neglect what you truly need. Yes, for the last 5 years offensive line has been a glaring need, but I don't think it really is anymore. And I think that we're starting to kind of get the gel of this offensive line, and I don't think we really need to insert uh a new person into that. And I think what we've seen is that over time, the line gets better as long as it's consistently being rolled out there. Same five guys, same five guys. And again, it's not going to be a top offensive line in the league, but all we needed to be is passable, I think. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I think that there was some I think there was some positive growth this year. So if Broderick Jones can be, get rid of those penalties and get back to like how good he could be at his regular position, and then if Fatanu can come back and be what we hope he's gonna be, I think it could be huge because Zach Frazier is awesome. Um, Samalu, I don't know how I fully feel about him yet, but I feel like he can be good. And McCormick, I'm not a fan of, but it was just him that is like, an iffy guy. I feel like that could be good for the year.
Okay. So as far as the offensive side goes, so you wanted a running back. I also want a running back. What are your kind of prospects right now? Would you spend it in the first round? Would you trade back? Would you trade that first round pick back so that you can maybe snag a second round pick and take a second round running back? What are your thoughts on the running back right now as things stand?
So I'm torn because I think in the first round, I think we should either take a running back or a cornerback. So I think, so going off the scenario, if we take a running back in the first round, the three guys I like, probably no surprise. Top two are Trevion Henderson and Keyshawn Junkins. I like both of them a lot. I also like. I don't. I don't think that I put him above the other two, but the I forget his name, the UNC running back,
Omari and Hampton. I've got him down.
Mario Hampton. Yeah, I do like him. However, I think that his gameplay looks a little bit more like Jalen Warren's versus the other two guys. Like that, I'm when I'm looking at a running back, I want someone to pair with Jalen Warren because I want Jalen Warren to still get a lot of touches. So for me, my top pick would be Travion Henderson because he's very different. Um, well, yeah, he is very different the way he plays the running back position, and he's more of a receiver. But I'd be very content with Travion Henderson or Keyshawn Judkins because I think Judkins is a more whole running back. Like I think Judkins has everything. Like he can run between the tackles really well. He can take it outside and hit that burst, but like speed isn't what he's like known for. And then also can be a receiving back. So I think that but well, okay, I may go back on what I just said because I think that Jalen Warren does have that speed. He can be a receiving back. I think that Judkins could be really good in between the tackles, getting gritty yards. So I think that if we do take a running back in the first round, I'd probably go with him. Even though I love Henderson as like a my heart is like I go Henderson because he's a Christian and he's he's been at Ohio State longer, but I probably go with Judkins, and it kind of goes with the reason why I think I put all line so high to begin with is I would love it if the Steelers, especially if we don't get a quarterback, if we got back to like what won us Super Bowls is, a ground and pound offense and a tough, the steel curtain. Like I want to like start drafting and getting back to that football because this run and gun, like all West Coast, I don't think we can do it. So I think that we should get back to what wins us championships.
I agree with that. Now, interestingly enough, I was at Barnes and Nobles literally a couple hours ago randomly. I was not expecting to be there, but I saw this NFL Draft magazine that obviously came out after the combine, so it's a recent publishing. And I saw Judkins. It said in the little blurb about him projects as a fourth to fifth rounder. Now, I don't know if I believe that, and I didn't care to look as to who published this magazine, but that kind of shocked me. And the thing that I did see on the UNC side, the one that you said, Omari and Hampton, I actually think he kind of profiles a little bit more like Najee, but the difference is that he's a whole lot faster than Najee, and he has an explosive aspect that Najee doesn't have, which I was intrigued by, and I don't think we really talked about him in our running backs episode, but I kind of like that idea, and I think maybe if we did touch on him, it was okay. He's too much like Najee. I don't want to have Najee 2.0. But the
Yep.
more I look at it, I kind of like this option. Now I don't know where he's going to be projected at. I think it's going to be probably either first or early second round, which is kind of why I posed the question, would you be upset if we traded back in the first round so that we can maybe acquire a second round pick that we can, use for this type of stuff? Because honestly, the Steelers don't have a lot of picks in this draft. They only have the first round pick, and then they go to a third round pick, and then a fourth, and then so on from there. So no second round pick kind of throws a wrench into things. Is trading back an option for you if there's still plenty of first round options on the table at 21?
Yeah, I think that if the guy or guys that the Steelers are looking at getting are projected to be there in the second round, if you can get something for a first round pick, I'd say take it. Like if you're like, we could get this guy now, or all these guys that are here, we don't really want, but they're good. It's like, well, yeah, I do like that. I think definitely like just throw out feelers and see like, listen, if say Omari and Hampton, or even like with Judkins, you're saying he's third or fourth round pick. If they know that's going to happen and that's what they're going for, it's like, yeah, all right. What do people want for this first round pick to kind of go down a little bit? I would be content with that.
Okay. I'm also content with that. I wouldn't mind it, honestly. And with how confusing I feel like this draft is and how we can kind of approach it, I honestly wouldn't mind putting the ball in somebody else's court and say, here, like, take it. And if we see several picks after that and it's like, well, this wasn't really anybody that we were thinking about, And now here we've got 4 or 5 guys that are still available that we like. Find a way to get 2 second-round picks and take them both. Don't have to wait until that third round. Like, acquire that capital. Find a way to increase your capital. I mean, we're both Penguins fans. The Penguins have the most draft picks in the next 3 years than any team in the NHL because all they've done in the last month and a half is, they keep flipping these people. They get a player and they flip them for a draft pick. And like they're decently high draft picks too. The Steelers this year, they don't really have the luxury of draft capital, even though their offseason, you know, didn't really further them a whole lot further down the road. So I like the idea of trading back and just kind of letting the talent come to you. And and I think that would honestly be my first option for this. Now, if if Amari and Hampton is there in the first round, I would be okay with that. I would like that. If we can find a way to get him in the second round, trading back, I would like that too. One thing we talked about beforehand was it seems like there's a lot of NFL analysts that really think the Steelers are going to take a defensive lineman in the first round. So
Yes.
let's kind of flesh that out because that wasn't something I was personally thinking was a complete necessity, but it seems like there's some talent on the defensive line in this draft that I think that they're wanting the Steelers to supplement with Cam Hayward. So, what are your thoughts on that? Do you have any prospects? Is that something you'd be willing to use that first round pick on?
I don't. I wouldn't. I mean, I just said to get back to steel curtain stuff like that. So it's like I do eventually want to take a D lineman and kind of beef that up. I don't know if it should be a first round pick though. I do have some guys. The guy that sounded me the most is Kenneth Grant, if I'm thinking of the right guy, because he's just massive. Like he's just huge. And we grew up watching like Casey Hampton and Ziggy Hood, and those guys are just giant. So it's like I think that would be I like getting those big guys. Him, Walter Nolan, and Joshua Farmer are two that I also saw. I put down Shamar Stewart's name, but I don't remember him. Um, but I'd say that I don't think it should be a first round pick. But if any of those guys fall to the third somehow, I'd say take them.
Well, what I'm seeing is it seems like there's a lot of these interior defensive tackles that are like really high graded guys. So
Yeah.
you mentioned Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. Like
Yes.
he's the fourth best defensive tackle according to ESPN. I've seen a lot of mock drafts with Derek Harmon, who's out of Oregon. He's 6'5", 313.
Oh, yes.
So I've seen him in a whole bunch of Steelers mock drafts, which, it wasn't really my thought necessarily, but I'm looking at this and like this might be a really deep defensive lineman draft. And I think it would be beneficial to take advantage of that. I think especially this season, if you can go for best available in certain positions that are still relevant to what your needs are, I think that would be the best way to go. So, like you said, if we can wait until the second or third round to get some of these guys, then, you know, I would do that in a heartbeat. Now, the big question is interior defensive linemen a hot commodity in these drafts? Is that something that, a lot of teams are going to be wanting to take and, that means several are going to be off the board?
Well, that's a good question because I think you can try and look at who goes before us for the first round pick and kind of see where people are going. If no one's taking a D lineman, then you might be able to wait a little bit. But if they're coming off the board, you look behind you and you see all these guys. And that is a good point because I don't really know how hot they'll be this draft. Um, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see because I think if there are a plethora and kind of it's nice to know like the Penguins, we know what they're doing. They're rebuilding. They're gonna get in the draft. The Steelers, we don't know. It's just like it feels like, just so directionless with what is happening. And so it's hard to even say what to do because I mean the way you were praising it, I was like, oh, maybe it wouldn't be bad to get a D lineman the first round. So it's just hard because we don't know kind of where they want to go with it. So I guess yeah, if they were to get one of the top four prospects, it wouldn't be horrible. I prefer to see it on a running back or on a cornerback, in my opinion. But I mean, I'm a huge O line, D line guy. Like those are, I think you win and lose games on those two positions. So I wouldn't hate it.
Okay. Now you talked about cornerbacks, and I agree. I think cornerback is a need. Who do you have as your cornerback prospects?
So the three that I have written down, and I remember two of them without a doubt. Or well, I think I actually remember all three. Will Johnson from Michigan. I think that he's not. I know he's not the highest rated, but he's a solid guy. And I was looking when I was looking at the quarterbacks because I think there was a decent amount in the top 50. I didn't want one who profiled as Joey Porter Jr. because I wanted someone that looked a little different. I think I have Malachi Starks down. I think that he profiles a little bit more like Joey Porter Jr. And then I think the one that stood out to me, the as long with these guys, is Trey Amos. And I think that he looked like he could be a real like game wrecker. So I think that I would go with Trey Amos or Will Johnson. I think Will Johnson would need to be developed a little bit, but I think he could be a great corner. I think that Amos would be really cool to see.
Okay, so would you mind the cornerback being a middle round pick, especially if we can acquire maybe a second round pick somewhere? Would you mind it being like a second or a third round pick?
I don't think I would mind it depending on I don't know the depth of I don't know. From what I saw, I think there's a pretty decent depth with quarterbacks this season, this draft. So I wouldn't hate it if you can still obviously get a quality pick.
Okay. Now, are there any other positions, whether they're needs or not, are there any prospects you have in places? I have one very specific prospect that I want to pick, and I have an idea of when to pick him. Do you have any?
I have so I have two guys. One for wide receiver, I have Emeka Egbuka because I think that I mean Ohio State, sure, but I think that he would just I mean, man, does he be a great slot guy to pair with George Pickens and DK Metcalf because he's just an unbelievable route runner, and that's DK Metcalf and George Pickens aren't really known for route running. They're known for being going deep and like you know being big. So I think that Ibuka's route running could be really cool to pair with that. And then I had Carson Schwessinger from UCLA, the linebacker. Watching some of his tape, he looks like he's just got some like pow to him, and like he can run around the field. And I still think linebacker, even though I love Peyton Wilson and I think he's going to continue to be awesome, and Patrick Queen, obviously, I think he's he didn't have the best year, but I think he's still good. I think it might be good to get another young guy in there, even though Cole Holmgren, I know, is also coming back. But those were the two that I saw that are like, oh, I like those guys.
Okay. So here's mine. And I can, I don't know where he's going to get picked. And I have a feeling that this guy might even drop all the way down to like the fifth round. So it's Tez Johnson, the wide receiver from Oregon.
Okay.
He is a lot like Calvin Austin, and a lot of people are saying that he's he's just not big enough to be in the NFL. Like one tackle from some big dude and he's done. He's done for.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. He is such a good route runner. And I feel like this is the type of value that you can get in the late rounds that yes, there's not a lot of like there's a lot of question marks with him. Does he translate to the NFL? A lot of people are saying I don't think so. But what I'm seeing is this guy has so much potential. He's super fast. He's an excellent route runner. He's kind of an inside guy that can work the middle of the field. And I think if you can snag him in the fifth round, if you can hold out until the fifth round to get him, then I think that this would be an absolute win. And I think that that frees up those bigger earlier round picks. Like you would say, like you like Igbuka, I like Igbuka too, but if you take Igbuka, you probably can't get two or three other guys. So
Right.
I like the value of Tez Johnson. I think a lot of teams are going to pass up on him. I think he drops a long way, and I would love to see him taken in the fifth round. Calvin Austin was a 4th round pick. Does that sound right? Or was he later?
Um,
I think
he was at least fourth round. Like he was, but I can't remember. I don't remember. I can look that up real quick. What do you remember when he's only played 2 years, right?
technically he had the other year because he didn't play the entire rookie year technically.
That's right.
So that would have been that was the Kenny Pickett draft, right? Cuz or was it the year after?
Oh yeah, it was a 2022 draft.
Okay.
So and it was a fourth round.
Okay. So that's the type of thing. It's like this absolute speed demon out of Memphis. Like he's got the qualities to be a good guy in the NFL, but you just don't know if he's really going to translate. I see a lot of that in Tez Johnson, and I think that maybe the ceiling is even higher. And especially because we saw how successful Oregon was playing against really good competition. They played some really good schools. Tez Johnson was a big part of their offense, and I like that ability that he has. And I like the X factor that he kind of has at a very good value. So I like Tez Johnson a lot. I didn't even mention him in our wide receivers episode. I can't believe I forgot about him. I will be honest. He completely slipped my mind, but
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna let him slip by this time because I think he's definitely a guy to target in the late rounds.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that you mentioned that. I didn't know where his like draft capital was, and the fact that it's that low could be good because I mean, yeah, I watched him absolutely smoke Ohio State earlier in the year, and so he like literally he was making he just made every play. So his route running was amazing, and I think that yeah, I wouldn't mind taking something like that, especially if it's later and we can get these other guys that we kind of have talked about or these other positions we talked about.
Okay. So that's kind of as much as I have for this draft, and we talked about it. I think last year around this time is that the two of us aren't the biggest into the college football realm. I think
Yeah,
I was more into the college football realm this year than any year ever. But
that's insane.
even still, I don't have the widespread reach to know what all these prospects are and
Yeah.
kind of how they slot in. But we did our best. That's kind of our understanding of things. And do you have anything else? Is there anything else you wanted to add?
I don't think so. I agree with you. Just kind of like, I can get an okay grasp at like the top 30, maybe top 50 guys. But other than that, unless I watch them, like, because I lean, obviously, Ohio State, I'm a huge Big Ten guy. So I mentioned a lot of Michigan guys, mentioned a lot of Ohio State guys. So unless I watch them, if they're not in like the top 30, I don't really know who they are. So we do what we can. And I think that, you know, this is interesting. I feel like this one was even more vague than last year's because it's like, because last year we kind of, the Steelers, we were like, okay, we kind of know what they're going to do. This year, who knows?
Right. And I think we predicted Zach Frazier in the second round last year, which was cool because,
Yeah.
we were like, West Virginia guy, we need a center. Like he seems like the guy that would fit the Steelers. And we did predict that right, which, little high five to us. Like that was cool. But I don't know if we're gonna hit on any of these this year. Like I wouldn't be surprised if we go through our entire draft when that time comes on Thursday and you know, by the time Saturday rolls around, we're like, all right, I've never heard of any of these guys, but here we go. So
Yeah. We'll have to like every time someone gets drafted, we'll be like, "Oh, was that good? Was that bad? I don't know." Like we'll have to see. Because last year I remember like most of who was our first round pick?
well, it's Fatano.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. So I remember being happy with like I think every pick last year. Like every time I got the notification, I was like, oh, like I remember getting Peyton Wilson specifically. I don't know, but I was just like, oh, like I looked it up and saw he like had an injury or something, but I saw his stats before that, and I was like, oh, like he could be a dark horse, and then he obviously ended up being really good. So I think I think even though our president and our coach may be inept in a lot of ways, Omar Khan is still a shining star and still like I trust him when it comes to specifically the draft, but also I mean, free agency, he's done some crazy stuff. So I think we can anticipate some good things as long as my only fear is that Mike Tomlin, which I think he has, ever since he's kind of been ever since I don't know when a while ago, he just has too much say on the draft. And so he may put his thumb down and we may get a quarterback this first round, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll probably unfortunately, we're not together for this one. I wish we could be, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, that won't be the case. But I think what we can do is we can film our reactions. I think it would be fun to, if we're around and available to see when our pick is, if we can film our reactions and see what it is, and like, hey, maybe we do take Jalen Milrow at 21, and then we can both sit there and cry about it. Who knows? But you know, it'll be really interesting. I really truly have no idea what's gonna happen.
I will definitely. Let's see. So does the draft start at 6 or does it start at like 7 or 8? I forget what time it starts.
I want to say I think 6 makes sense. I don't know that for sure, but 6 sounds like the right number. Because what we would usually do in college is we would go to Buffalo Wild Wings, and we would sit there through as much as the first round as it took, and then we would head back, and then we would watch the end of the first round. So I think that 6 makes sense if I had to guess.
So we actually, the day of the draft is my hall's formal. So I'll be at the formal. So what I'll do is I'll be updated, staying up with it on my phone. But I might try and get like my RI partner or something to like when the Steelers are out, like record me getting it to see because uh I mean I don't even who knows what's gonna happen. It could go so many different ways.
It could. And maybe Omar Khan has something up his sleeve because
I hope.
he knows he doesn't have as much room to work with in this draft, and maybe he's trying to find a way to get that room that he normally likes to have. And maybe we'll see like a massive move. Is there a possibility that maybe we see like an actual player on the Steelers traded away for something? I mean, I feel like that can't be out of the possibility right now.
Right. No, I mean I completely agree. I mean, I don't think this would happen, but we'll see what happens the next couple of years with TJ Watt after what he just posted and all of that. Like, I mean, I don't think that'll be anything this draft, but you got to think something like that. I'm sure there are people that wouldn't be too upset if they got traded out and we got something in return that was better. I don't know. I don't know what we had planned.
I don't either, but we'll find out on Thursday as the NFL draft will kick off from Green Bay, and then hey, 2026 it'll be in Pittsburgh, so that'll be a fun time. We'll get to look forward to that. But as always, the Boardman Black and Gold podcast is sponsored by Zecca Enterprises, crafting furniture solutions in northwestern Pennsylvania. You can call 910-777-3871 to turn your furniture problems into furniture solutions. We'll keep updated as the draft proceedings happen. We will put all the posts on our Instagram page, so make sure you follow us at Boardman and Gold on Instagram and on Twitter at BBNG Podcast. And we'll be back for our post-draft analysis, so you can expect to hear from us after the draft, and we'll flesh out all of our thoughts on all these people that we've never heard of before, and we'll see what happens, and we'll see if there's this big news that happens on draft night on Thursday. But regardless, thanks for listening to this episode, and we will see you after the draft.